see Mike every morning because he's evolving. So, you know, when I very first started coming, he was kind of jeans and a polo shirt.
I know, isn't that awesome?
And then he started wearing dress slacks and a dress shirt, and then today, look at this, man.
Just wait, next week it's like comb over and glasses. Get up, guys! Get up! Let's go! Yeah! Napoleon Hill, first! Therefore, I consider myself resisting continuing action towards attainment, and I herein now publish to register captain. Second, I realize the dominating thought in my mind will eventually be reduced to the whole power of physical action, and gradually transform itself into reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking the person I intend to become, thereby creating my mind with a original picture of that person. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that persists in my mind will eventually lead to great Therefore, I devote 10 minutes daily to strengthening myself to self-confidence. Fourth, I have very advantage to my everyday life, and I will never stop trying. Fifth, I fully realize that no other position can be endured unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no trend which does not benefit all human effects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the works that I wish to do, and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me, because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me, because I believe in them and in myself. I will recognize this formula, commit to memory, and repeat it out every single day, with full faith that I will gradually influence my thoughts and actions, so that I become a self-reliant and successful person. So I'm back. This is the 12-step formula with minimum standard which, when followed with actions in a positive environment, guarantees 24% satisfaction annually and an unprecedented personal growth and achievement. 1. I dedicate 1 hour daily towards building and protecting my self-confidence. 2. I practice and internalize skills for a minimum of 1 hour each day. 3. I contact my sphere of influence by mail, by phone, and/or in person by inviting my supporters. 4. I make 150 plus contacts per week, very plus per day, by phone or in person. 5. I follow up with all my conversations daily. 6. I set 5 plus 2 appointments per week for higher salary. 7. I completely qualify 100% of my appointments. 8. I have an appointment to get to lift ratio of 50% or greater. 9. I call all of my sellers weekly and strong positions every 3 weeks at minimum 5%. 10. I sell 75% of all my business inventory. 11. I represent everybody qualified every buyer within 2 hours of Instagram. 12. I only work with highly qualified buyers who have been pre-qualified by a mortgage lender and have been signed a buyer broker agreement. Earn more commissions in less time with less energy spent. I recognize that success comes from consistent outcomes from those who have outcomes. Therefore, I commit to following every step of the 12 steps of success. Now I'm the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will dream, not destroy. I am a voice for good. I am a leader. Define the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Love this energy. Closing episode, Zora. I succeed because I have my goals. I am an optimist. I like talking to new people. I know what's important to me. I am very consistent. I have faith in my knowledge. I have consistency. I know consistency is my greatest goal. I like asking questions and listening. I enjoy reading and improving my skills. My thoughts and my emotions and actions result. I focus on my communication.
Hey! Right in the middle of my soul.
Just jamming, man.
I figure out why you would the slow jam information.
You said always have been twice now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you usually show up halfway through.
Is that what you're
Or you know, used to be the last one.
That's good. Ouch. Oh, Jay. Welcome back.
It takes a little bit longer to put on a tie than it does.
Right.
Okay, everyone. All right, let's hear it today. Wins, gratitudes.
I have one. I want to welcome Kelby Martin. He's new today. He'll be signing in today.
Yep.
We're pretty excited he's here. He's going to do well. Speaks Japanese. Going to be exciting journey ahead of you.
Domo arigato.
Is that all you know, Jay?
He did well for the first time in role play this morning. Did really, really well. So excited to have him here.
Good. Awesome. Welcome. Who's next?
I'm here for the first time since January 28th.
Hey!
Elma!
Yeah, we started doing closing affirmations since you left. Yeah. The best, I keep seeing Jason's face when he walks in. Lady's like, what
I
is
forgot everything. And I was like going through, I'm like, I thought I had this memorized.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely
That's
not
awesome.
here. Jay.
Grateful for the agents that come in the morning.
Yes.
It's been really powerful, really beneficial, and I've learned a ton just in the 2 weeks I've been doing it all.
Isn't it amazing? Like sometimes you think you have it down, but you really have to stay sharp in this business, right? And there is something new you can learn all the time.
You're either growing or dying.
Yeah.
I am grateful that Matt has the affirmations memorized.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes.
Yeah. No, really, it's the power of the energy that when you do have it memorized, and it just is a reminder that, having your scripts dialogue down, having your dialogues down, it allows you to bring that extra energy, right? And you don't even really have to think about it. So it was fun to see that this morning. So
Not
thank
just-
you.
Yeah, not just energy, but focus.
And then my other one is, I would say, the power of consistency. So hopefully I'll be able to say this without crying. This Sunday morning, I woke up to a text message of my brother-in-law who is in Australia, and he has been the most skeptical family member of Tony Robbins. And the text message was, I'm down here in Australia, and these Aussies seem to like Tony, and I've been listening to a bunch of videos at work, and they watched I'm Not Your Guru. And he's like, it was fun to see you in it. So those of you who haven't watched it or have watched it, me and George and Rob Adams and a few other are actually in it, but
You're so famous.
just in the audience. Yeah, no, we're no big deal. But it was fun to watch my brother-in-law, who not only is he was the most skeptical, he also has the biggest ego that I know at times, be able to drop that ego and apologize. And it was the best text message that I woke up to in the morning, just because the consistency of going to the events and sticking to my truth. It was just a testament for me, but also like being able to see now that he said I wasn't a fan, but now I am. And I'm sorry for poking fun at you, and it was just fun to see the change and for him to do it. So
Sometimes we or others aren't ready, right?
yeah,
So it's
7 years.
in the
It's taken
process.
7 years,
Well done.
but I got to him finally.
Good job. Yeah. Did you?
I was waving at Ken as he finally showed up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Grateful
Yeah.
for Grateful. Yes. Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah, we have some people returning, it sounds like. Some newbies. Fun day. Some rookies. Some guys waiting on their.
That was a powerful base camp.
Way powerful base camp. Yes.
Anyone else? Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Okay.
I was
yeah.
grateful for a little.
Are you
downtime.
waving? Or are you raising your hand right now? Okay, you're raising your hand. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm with that. Okay.
A little downtime this last weekend. Went up the mountains and just reformulated a little bit. One of George's words.
What's that? Reformulated.
Just taking stock of what I've been doing and what's working and what isn't.
Great. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. It's great to take time to think, to ponder, right? Sometimes we get so busy, we lose track of where we are. Yeah, Marty.
I'm actually grateful for my Marine coach. He's helped out a lot.
Great.
And with you and Chris, Rick helping out, you guys have really helped out in a lot of ways.
Great.
Why are you on one-on-one?
Uh-huh.
So thank you. So speaking of base camp, guys, what were some of your takeaways? Who went to base camp yesterday? I raise your hands. Awesome. What were some of your takeaways? I want to hear from you guys very quickly. Yeah.
What will you not accept anymore in your life? Spent the last 24 hours really focusing on what I'm done with. And as part of that, we often realize there's, the pain that we're running from, which pain do we really want to be running from?
Very good.
And sometimes that often drives us into another pain that we've been avoiding, but which has been driving us right into the very pain that we don't want.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Yeah, Mark.
You will not save yourself with wealth. I think that was great.
Say that again.
You will not save yourself with wealth. Someone is not going to save you at the end of the day.
Going back to the basics, which is not, just in case anybody missed them, they are on page 7 in the manual. Getting back to the basics and realize your purpose, your goals, your discipline, your mindset, your skill set, your systems. If you master those, you're as good as Alma.
Isn't it interesting? Like, if we have been in the business a while, you have these things down, and then you hear the same things sometimes. You go to the Mike Ferry retreats, or you go to Tony Robbins, some of the same messages and the same statements are made. However, after, say, how many years or months, we internalize that one thing and then realize these basics are what we build ourselves off of, right? So,
there's that saying that when the pupil is ready, the teacher will arrive, or something of that nature. I don't know if I thought I understood that, but I think now I understand it, that you hear these things, but you're not ready to understand them. You hear them, but at a time in my life ago, I was like, there's something that Tony Robbins has taught, and I've heard it 50 times, and just never clicked, and I was like, that's what he's been trying to say.
Yeah, just like Lindsay was saying, sometimes we aren't ready to hear a message, right? So really quick before I go forward, UPW, speaking of Tony Robbins in Newark, November 8th through 11th, we have special pricing, so please sign up. If you're looking for the opportunity to go, this is a golden opportunity. And then of course, Summit, September 13th, we have a flyer up here. And new book, I guess we haven't written that up there, but 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Excellent
Great book.
Yep. Excellent book. The 2 books we've had in a row tie in well with each other. Yeah.
Powerful.
So going along with what actually George was talking about yesterday, the reason I wanted to get your guys' opinions and what you had remembered from base camp is I was, over Labor Day weekend, I had the chance to, speaking of having time to think and ponder things and reevaluate things, I was on a drive with my family. We were going camping in the northern Uintas. And camping, of course, with you and a partner, spouse, you alone, is a little different than going camping with 3 young boys, 8, 5, and 2 years old. They all made it back. Everyone was okay, but you're a little high-strung and everything. But there is a portion of the drive, so this is like a 2.5-hour drive, and everyone fell asleep except for my 5-year-old. And one game that he likes to do is Would You Rather. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that game. But, and of course, because he's a 5-year-old boy, it turns into, like, would you rather eat poop or get stung in the eye by a bee or something like that. So it's pretty entertaining and everything, and so we're doing that for a little while, and then he falls asleep, so it's just me driving, and then I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, we're always playing that game. We're always playing the Would You Rather game. George talked about yesterday, there's a price we pay for success. There's a price you have to pay for success each and every time. There's no escaping it, right? So, if a question I have, I guess to start is, hopefully I word this right, but let's say success for me isn't the same as someone else's. Let's say I'm okay making $30,000 a year, or whatever it is, or that's successful to me. Is there a way to escape paying the price then? I mean, can I escape like having to pay for decisions I make, or what are your guys' thoughts? No, why?
No matter where you're going, you have to pay the price, I guess, simply put.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have something, Rick?
Well, in a few cases, there are people that do win the lottery, but they still end up paying a price for keeping it and figuring out how to keep it. It's what you have to become in order to get to that level or retain that or keep that. It's fascinating to watch agents make hundreds of thousands of dollars and then all of a sudden turn it off and lose everything because they forget how they got to where they were going.
Just some, Jason.
Yeah, I think that the price has to be paid, but it doesn't necessarily need to be paid by you all the time. You know, my mom sacrificed a lot for me so I could have what I have. She sacrificed it. Same thing with some of the things that we do. You know, it might be at the expense of somebody else that they have to sacrifice because of the decisions you made. So I don't necessarily think that every decision I make, I'm taking on that sacrifice, but I do need to be aware of who's going to take on that sacrifice for me.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute, but George also talked about our legacy, right? And maybe others are paying the price for what we decide. Yeah.
I think it's also important to remember, I don't know if this is going to answer your question in any way, but like success isn't always necessarily the money. Maybe it's like if you're only making 30 grand, what else is important to you? Why is it only 30 grand? Are you achieving every area in your life that you want to otherwise? And are you like, by not working at, are you then selling yourself short?
And that was an example for one area of our life, right? We can be successful in other areas. That's a good point. Brenda.
I think I have to always remember there are sacrifices, but it's temporary. It's not going to last forever. And I like when George says, I can do anything for 1 day or 90 days or 1 month. So just really focus. It is temporary.
Timber.
Well, I think of, so my husband and I have these conversations all the time. So his brother and his wife are huge Dave Ramsey people, like huge. And for years it would be like, oh, well, the boys can't go to camp this year because we still haven't saved enough for that roof, you know? And like, I mean, this is like 8-10 years. And finally last year they paid the roof, you know? And then this year it was, well, we had this family trip planned, but we had to pay $500 more in taxes, which was so laughable compared to what we were having to deal with tax-wise. But it's just like there is a price, because if you choose to live this way, then you have to give up all of the things, you know, I mean, there's the idea of living like nobody now so you can live like nobody later, but I don't know if they're ever really going to be in that place. I think it's always going to be a martyrdom, you know, and so you either pay the price of paying all the extra taxes and kind of enjoying the things now, and you're not promised tomorrow, and I've seen that too many times. So, or paying the price of just always telling your kids no. You know, 3 years, and this is a lot of things, but 3 years ago I asked if they could send their boys out here. They live in Indiana, and my brother-in-law had like a complete panic attack. We've never taken our kids to New York like we planned, and that's like a 10-hour drive from them. You know, and I just was like, well, that's not my problem. Like, I don't really, if you haven't done the things you have planned for your family, like, when are you going to just do it, you know? But you pay the price of either having to say no all the time or enjoying some things and having to kind of put yourself in momentary pain.
Yeah. So we'll just do a couple more, yeah.
I was just on adding to that, you know, it's the difference between living your life with abundance or scarcity. You know, and it is a choice, and I've seen people in that scenario where they feel like it's almost a rite of passage to withhold themselves from enjoying their existence on the highest level. People say money's not everything. Okay, I guess it depends on how you look at it, you know, and I can't do anything without it, so is it everything? Can't court a wife, I can't take a kid to school, I can't go to church without money. And so there's so many arguments on, is it everything, is it not everything? Well, it's a catalyst to everything, let's put it that way.
We can definitely go into a deep conversation with that, but a lot depends on perspective and standards, right, that we have. So, Matt, did you have your hand up before?
A while ago.
What's up? I was going around. I knew Matt would make the biggest statement no one would follow. Let's hear it, Matt.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's pain everywhere, and there's suffering. Like, those are universal principles in existence, right? And so whether it's at a $30,000 a year price point, whether it's at 130 or 1.3 million, like, it doesn't matter. There's still going to also be some price and some pain to pay to living.
So we can't escape it.
You can't escape it. So pick wisely. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Choose
Two
which
more.
one.
Yeah, Dora.
I just want to be brief. I stuck in my mind what everybody's saying in church said yesterday, that money is not everything. And I'm a firm believer in that. You know that I have a mission. And it's just that the universe take care of, at least me. For every action, there's a reaction. Even though it's about money, about anything in your life, there's always an action if there's a reaction. And I'm a living proof of that.
There are always consequences.
Yes, there's always consequences.
Yeah.
Prices can be paid before an event or a situation or after. And usually the price paid before is a price that we choose. And if the price is paid after, it's not our choice.
It tends to be more
Lindsay.
expensive.
We have that freedom.
Yeah.
So a couple quotes that come to mind is one from George, and he says that you were successful long before the money comes, right? If you're becoming who you need to become, then you've paid the price, whether the money comes or not. The second thing that comes to mind to me is the quote from Jim Rohn, and he says, success is what success is to the individual, right? So kind of going along with what Matt says, it's up to you on what that is. And then I was listening to Tony this morning, and one of the things that I love that he says is it's, more or less kind of what George says, it's not about wealth. And he actually gave many of you probably heard him give this example, but it's the story with Al Gore and how he basically called him out in front of everybody why he didn't win the president election, right? And it was because, and he said, the statement was, it's not the lack of resources, right? Many people don't have money, it's the lack of resourcefulness. So you can do a lot of good without money.
So we can talk about, the specifics, like why someone got here, why they didn't get there. You made an interesting point. So there's a price of failure, right? There's either a price of success, basically, and we can define that in different ways, and there's a price of failure. Generally, and you made a very interesting point, generally the price of failure comes later, right? A good example of that could be, there are so many like workout examples, I don't even want to use that. Let's say I am at work all the time, never with my family, speaking with my kids earlier, never present, things like that. There can be a price to be paid later on in my relationships, right? There are other things, let's talk about our business. There's prospecting consistently day in and day out. If I don't do that, there's a price to be paid perhaps later on when I'm trying to understand why my business isn't where I'd like it to be, or I don't have enough clients to work with. Or on the flip side, if I'm doing that consistently day in and day out, down the road I see the success that comes from that. So if this is so obvious, why is it so hard? Why is it so difficult? What do you guys think? Yeah.
Fear of pain.
I think. Yeah, we want to stay away from it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And being uncomfortable. So pain we can define in many ways. We all get that, right? Being uncomfortable, whatever it is. Yeah.
I think we're very conditioned in our culture right now to want the results too quickly. And it takes a lot of consistency without seeing the results for most things that are worth anything.
So if I drop prospecting today, having conversations with my grandparents out there, or if I take the day off for whatever reason, am I going to see tomorrow like my life is over? When you're talking about the immediate things, is everything over with? Am I getting out of the business? Am I just saying I might as well quit now? No, right? So the important part is I want to write up a couple steps here to keeping things in perspective when we talk about paying the price. Things that are absolutely necessary for us to remember when we're on that road to success. Okay? Sound fair? So I'm going to write up a couple things here. First, I'm going to say what do you absolutely have to have or achieve? Kind of a long way to put it, but kind of is written wrong. Anyway, so what do we there's no question, what do we have to have in our lives? What is our standard, our minimum standard? Each and every, why are you looking at the, is it the spelling, Jason? What?
I just have bad eyes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, so what is our absolute minimum? Each and every day when I go home and look in the mirror at 5 o'clock, if I don't reach so many contacts, if I don't have an appointment, what am I not going to accept in my life without, right? This goes in line with what failure am I absolutely not going to have in my life. I have to use a working out metaphor, but if I have the requirement that I absolutely have to squat this much or bench this much or run this far or this fast, I am not going to allow myself to dip below that. It's like my personal governor, right? I like to think of that as our standards. What do I absolutely have to hit in my life? And this comes to our lives. It can't be just real estate or careers. It can be family, whatever it is. And a lot of times our own experiences help us dictate that, right? And what's important to us. Second, this is very important. Or what is our purpose? For me personally, I've always been so busy with going after one thing after the next. I think, I don't know, subconsciously maybe I've stayed busy so that I don't have to sit and take the time to think of what is my why. This is one of the hardest things. I think a lot of times we talk about having your why, but honestly in conversations that I have with people and also with myself, I think it's actually pretty rare where people have that why that's strong enough to motivate you to action each and every day. Just really quick, my thought is if your why isn't motivating you to act outside of yourself, dig deeper into what your why and your purpose is, because that will pull you. I think George referenced that yesterday. If your why is strong enough, if your purpose is strong enough, it will pull you outside of your regular behaviors, habits, whatever it is, to get where you need to go. So I think we had a comment over here first.
I would submit that everybody has a why. You all have one.
Everyone does have it, yeah.
Have it, and it really just kind of comes down to, first of all, being able to tease it out and define it, and then decide if that's sufficient. If once you've been honest enough with yourself to define your why, then the next question is this enough? Is this really what I want to have motivating me in my life? So if your why is financial security and success, and the economy collapses in 2008, and that has been your defining motivator, then you're at a real crisis at that point, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. A crisis isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the point is, if that's been defining you, if what defines you is healthy relationships, and all your relationships fall apart, that's going to create a crisis for you. But every single one of us gets out of bed for a different reason, whether we've defined it or not. And so the real question, I think, for me is that enough of a motivator? If everything else went away, would that be enough of a reason to keep me moving forward every day?
You're right, we all have the why, but it's tapping into what that is and identifying it, right? One thing that's helped me personally a lot is, one, I look at my actions. I say, when I get up in the morning, do I pretty much like leap out of bed to get at it every day because I've identified what my why is and why I have to achieve these results or these standards day in and day out. But personally for me, when I was working to define my purpose in my life or my why, you can literally just do that. Ask, why is that so important to me? And continue to dig deep that way until you reach what it is. It can be, if I need security in my life, why is security so important to me? Because I want my children to not experience what I experienced. Why is that important to me? And that helps you dig deeper on those sides. Yeah.
And it can change. You know, your why can change. It's an evolving process, what I've learned. You may start the year, or start the month, or start the week with a specific why, a purpose, and then by the end of that week or month or year, it's totally different, and it's a different motivating factor for you.
You tapped into that. Sometimes experiences can change that, right? Jason, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think that through talking to a lot of people about their purpose and their whys, a lot of times people don't want to define what their why is because it's not this grand I want to save the world type of purpose right now. But all of us have different purposes right now. And your purpose might be getting yourself back on your feet this year. I mean, that might be your purpose. And sometimes we forget that we're on different tracks than everyone else. And defining what that purpose is doesn't need to be, I'm going to go over to a certain country and build libraries right now. Because we're never going to define that if we keep looking at other people's lives and everything that's getting so big.
Comparisons can be detrimental, right? When you compare to others, what it should be. And a lot of times our why is so big, maybe it's scary sometimes, all right?
I think it's good to ask yourself too, what is it going to cost me if I don't do this?
Bet.
Sorry. Did I jump?
No, that was great.
I find personally my biggest problem is I avoid the pain now instead of realizing how much more painful the pain is going to be later.
If the pain of, say, stopping a habit of smoking, like so many packs per day right now, I mean, is so hard. Of course, it's hard to see that later on, the consequences that could come from that, right? And that goes back to if I change today, I may not see the consequences tomorrow or the day after, but it does come. There's always a price, right? The price of failure. It's a good point. So we have to identify what is the price. I think a lot of times maybe we get to this point where we identify our why or our purpose, but we don't identify what the price is. We say, well, I'm going to work really hard until I get there, or there's the vision board, like that comes into the side of, that sure would be nice if I achieve that, right? Or whatever it is. But we have to outline what is the price. One thing I share with agents consistently is there's so many people in this business that are good people, that can communicate with people, that are very nice and understanding and good salespeople and things like that. The two things that I've seen in my own life and those that are extremely successful, those individuals do is they have a process and they know their numbers. The reason I say that right now is they've identified what that price is. Numbers, if we track what our activity is, will tell us the story of what I need to do, what that price needs to be. And if we have a process, let's see. That helps us make consistent payments. Generally speaking, in our lives, in our relationships, in our business, price isn't a one-time thing, right? It's not a one-time payment. We have to make consistent payments into that each and every day. And that's where the process comes into play. You have to identify a process that you do consistently each and every day to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. Yeah.
I think Kenneth nailed it for me. It's avoiding that pain. And for me, if I don't take time early in the morning to think about these things, it's not going to happen during the day. Things get busy, I shield myself from the pain. And it has to be a time of day when my mind is willing to open up and reflect. And think it through. That's not happening at 2 in the afternoon or in the middle of prospecting or whatever. It's going to happen at 5:30 in the morning or whatever when the day isn't coming at me.
That's a great point. The last point I have here is we have to have belief in the process. One, these things help give us motivation and identify what it is that we need to do. But guys, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough to give in to the process each and every day. If I have a process of, I mean, it's amazing to me, if I have a process of making calls, door knocking, getting in front of groups, finding my target audience, doing things out of the norm that can be very painful and uncomfortable, it is very easy to shy away from that and go back into our habits and go back into our shell. But you have to have perspective and you have to believe in the process that it gets you there. Did you have your hand? Okay. Yeah, Eric.
So something that's really helped me, and hopefully it's really hard for me to like say it, so I'm gonna do my best, but lately I've been like recognizing where I've been giving my control, and so by setting my standards and by trying to hit those every day, I'm putting myself in control. Whereas if I don't hit those standards, I'm giving my control to something else. And that's kind of a good enough reason for me to want to hit those standards, because then I'm in control of my life, and then I can go out and get what I want. Versus if I give control to everything else, then the pain comes later and I don't have control, which is ultimately what I want. So you might as well just try and control what your standards are.
Yep. Yeah. You know what's interesting about what you're saying? Control is that always ties into ownership. Do I have ownership for what happens in my life? If I have ownership, I have control. If I'm pointing fingers at reasons why things are difficult and I can't do it, which is entirely a lie we tell ourselves, we're giving up control, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, something that I've been thinking about, and it's funny because Linda and I talked about it yesterday. We have so many producers, top producers around us, and they went through all the pain, they went through all the hardships to get to where they are today. So why would I expect anything less or working any less than they did at the beginning to get to where they are right now, right? And so I think we just forget. We all look at other agents and we're like, whoa, they're getting so much business and they're top producers, but we forget the pain that they went through just to get there. And I think that's perspective, right? How are you looking at it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
real quick. Yeah.
I would say they're going through the pain still. Yeah.
Do you think our ability to withstand that pain or to accept that being uncomfortable or pain, it's a muscle, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't work it out, you lose it. Yeah.
Lindsay.
I was just going to comment in regards to what Greg was saying is I love what Tony Wolf's often saying. He says you either will work towards pain or pleasure. It's one of the two, right? And so again, I think it goes back to the way that we perceive it and the way we look at it too. So is it really painful or is it pleasure that I get what I want out of it, right? And so I think that it's one of two things. You're either working from a place of pain or you're working from a place of pleasure and what you're going to get from it.
Or we could say fear or love.
It's a pleasureful pain.
Right.
Or the fear of success, right? The fear of success or the fear of failure. I love when Mike talks about that. Oftentimes Mike will say a lot of agents fear success. That's why they'll start and they'll plateau, right? And I do it all the time, even in recruiting. You'll plateau and you'll get to a certain level. It's because you're afraid of that success. And what do I do if I do get that success, right? So I think there's many ways you can say it.
Yeah. Really quick, Timbra. What?
Don't worry about it. It's kind of off. It was to Amari, as we're kind of far away from it now, but it was to Amari. It's just this story of like Pablo Picasso sitting in a restaurant, and I'm sure people have heard it, but he drew something on a napkin and he was going to throw it away, and the lady asked if she could have it, and he was like, yeah, for $60,000. And she was like, what, it took you 5 minutes to draw? And he said, no, it took me 60 years to draw it. And I think it's just a reminder that it's just a process that, and he exercised that muscle every day because he couldn't be where he was, where he could do something like that. And sometimes I feel like I should be able to do something like that because other people around me are, but those people have worked hard and worked through some things that I haven't allowed myself to work through to get there. And so I'm not there.
So in wrapping up, and thank you for your comments, guys. You're right. I mean, when we hear about about so many things there, but when we hear about those that have achieved on a high level, if it's where we define success as well, it's not something you can escape. You can find perhaps a substitute or something that will help briefly get you ahead of others, but you cannot cheat. Yeah, Lynn, really quick.
Rick wanted me to raise my hand. Confusing. But I think, go back to what you say for number 3, like what is the price? And a lot of the time that I see a lot of agent or even like myself, sometimes is we're not willing to pay the price. And we want instant noodle instead of homemade noodle, where we want instant result, instant success, and we're not willing to do like the hard work. And I think like a lot of the time, like I see nowadays, even like talking about my sibling, they want like instant like this. Like even my sister who's working with me right now, she want instant. Why can I not have a client just like you? Why can I not close like you? And I'm like, well, you didn't go through the pain. You didn't pay the price And
Yeah.
that's why, you know, you didn't have the skill set. You
Yeah.
didn't have you want instant success because that's what the society said. Is what, you know, a lot of the agents like, well, I can buy lead online. You know, I pay $200 to Zillow to buy the lead or something. That's like instant success to me.
Yeah.
Where the hard work is like, do you prospect? Do you dawn up? You know, do you follow up? Do you knock on someone's door at 8 p.m. at night to get a lead?
So
Those are things that I think not
Yeah.
a lot of the system haven't taught us, like, or people are not willing to do, and that's the reason why people stuck in where they are.
And it's not necessarily bad. If you find out what the price is and you say, I'm not willing to pay that, you can change the standard. It's fine in your idea of success. It's important that you not only focus on your goal and what the price is of that goal, but also what you're doing right now activity-wise, what price you're paying at this moment, and what that's going to bring. I just want to wrap up, and thanks for your comments, guys, but I want to wrap up with a quote I absolutely love. Let's see. About work. This is from a famous artist, not Picasso, but another artist. And he says, the advice I like to give to young artists, or really anybody who will listen to me, is not to wait around for inspiration. Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. If you wait around for the clouds to part and a bolt of lightning to strike you in the brain, you are not going to make an awful lot of work. All the best ideas come out of the process. They come out of the work itself. Things occur to you. If you're sitting around trying to dream up of a great art idea, you can sit there for a long time before anything happens. But if you just get to work, something will occur to you and something else will occur to you, and something else that you reject will push you in another direction. Inspiration is absolutely unnecessary and somehow deceptive. You feel like you need this great idea before you can get down to work, and I find that's almost never the case. Inspiration comes in the work. Whether we have our own blocks, whatever it is in our own lives about success, I know without a doubt, that I have seen other people achieve maximum success in different areas of their lives that every single person in this room is capable of doing. Every single person in this room is capable of doing. But we have to identify what is it that you absolutely must have, why, the price, make consistent payments in the process, and then have perspective and belief that you will get there. Good action always brings good results. Great action always brings great results. It does not follow specific individuals. So guys, today, get out there, stretch those muscles even more, be uncomfortable, and I promise if you do that consistently, I promise you, you'll achieve great results that you never have before. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Do we do closing or opening? Help me out. Do you closing? Okay. Closing again. I just love these closing opportunities. I just love them. Yeah. I succeed because I have my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to people. I know what is important to me. I remember people's names. I have a daily plan and I follow it. I'm passionate about real estate. I know it's in American school. I like asking questions and listening. I enjoy reading to improve my sales skills. My thoughts and my emotions, actions, and results. I focus on my dream daily. My presentation is powerful persuasive. I improve my skills daily. I am happy. I love the process and to be my business. I see my future in an awesome. I love my life. I'm grateful and thankful. I control my thinking. I believe in me. I feel outstanding. I use my beliefs and optimism each day. I get things done. I provide excellent customer service. I drink water daily. I connect with people. People love me. I love life. I am disciplined and accountable in my daily schedule. I prospect daily. I set appointments daily. I'm a master persuader. I achieve my goals. I'm a real estate rock star. I am passionate about my life. I live every day with purpose. I am confident in my sales skills. I know my destiny. I am healthy and strong. I am powerful. I am unstoppable. I keep positive, exciting, productive thoughts behind it all. Woo! I don't even know, not Chuck Norris. Chuck Close. Yeah. But I'll send it to you if you want.
Yeah.